Good evening. I call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. What I like to always do is just kind of start our night out with a pause, just for you to kind of just pause and get ready to conduct city business. It's been a busy day for all of you, I'm sure. So just take a moment to just breathe, take a pause before we get started. All right, thank you. If you're able, please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a roll call, please?
Johnson.
Present.
Kelly.
Present.
Mikulski.
Here.
Polika.
Here.
Leaks May.
Here. Now, may someone entertain a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. We will start off tonight with our presentations. The first presentation will be given by Chief Emmy, who will present and recognize promotions within the police department.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's with great honor that I get to recognize these fantastic police officers as they get promoted throughout our ranks. I want to ask the following officers to step forward. Allison Fleury, Janessa Danielson, Casey O'Loughlin, and David Spellman. As we go over these officers' resumes, you're just going to see a really fantastic body of work and a lot of experience, and we're really fortunate to have all of them in our command ranks. So as we go over their bio, they're going to have some people that are special to them come up and pin their badges on them to welcome them to the next stage of their careers. So we're going to start with Allison Fleury. Can you step forward, Allison? Allison was hired as a dispatcher in 2004 and again as a PO, a police officer, in 2006. She has over 17 years experience as an officer. She holds a bachelor's degree from Lake Superior State University, and her notable assignments with our department has been as a school resource officer and a detective. You can have your family step forward. Thank you. Janessa Danielson, can you please step forward? Janessa was hired as a police officer in 2005 and has over 18 years experience. She has a bachelor's degree from Wayne State University, and she's finishing up her master's in public administration currently at Central Michigan University. She's a graduate of the Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command, and her notable assignments include school resource officer, professional standards sergeant, and accreditation manager. She's a member of the Honor Guard, and she was a special event coordinator for our department. She was promoted to lieutenant on March 4th. Janessa, notably, was our first female supervisor and now our first female lieutenant. Congratulations. And her family can now step forward for pinning. Thank you. Next promotion, Casey O'Loughlin, please step forward. Casey was hired as a police officer in 1994 and has over 29 years of service with the city of Ferndale. He has a bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan. He's a graduate of the Eastern Michigan University School of Police Staff and Command, and he's a graduate of the 250th session of the FBI National Academy. Notable assignments are FTO, Field Training Officer, and Field Training Officer Commander. He was an evidence tech. He was a member of the SWAT team for a long time and was a deputy commander on that SWAT team. He was also the first DEA task force officer selected from our department to represent us with the Drug Enforcement Administration. And other position he held was the detective lieutenant position. Casey is one of our most experienced officers, and we're happy to welcome him to the rank of captain. Can his person please step forward for pinning? Will David Spellman please step forward? Deputy Chief Spellman was hired as a service aide in 1996. He was hired again as a police officer in 1997. He has over 26 years of experience. He holds a BA from Ferndale State University and a master's from Eastern Michigan University. He's a graduate of the Eastern Michigan University School of Police Staff and Command. His notable assignments include Honor Guard and Honor Guard Commander, Field Training Officer, Mobile Field Force Commander, Evidence Technician. He spent 4 years with the narcotics enforcement teams of Oakland County, and he held the position of Detective Lieutenant. He was promoted to Deputy Chief on January 8th of this year. Can his person please step forward to pin him? And before you can you please hold for a picture? Mayor, could you step forward?
You're too close to the mic.
Oh, Mayor, could you join us for a picture up in front of the dais? There you go.
Right. Chief Emmy, you'll be introducing our police communication liaison to us tonight as well.
Yes, again, thank you. It is an honor to present this next presentation or make this introduction. We've undergone some changes at the police department, and we recognize that police officers don't always possess the knowledge, skills, and abilities to be the best communication liaisons. So we recognize that maybe a civilian could do a little bit better job. So we started a search, and we went through maybe 50 different applicants and whittled it down to our selection. Evan Allen comes to us by way of the U.S. Marine Corps. University of Michigan Dearborn, and the city of Dearborn. So, Evan, come on forward and make your introduction.
Mayor, Council, thank you very much for this opportunity to join the family and team of Ferndale. It's a great opportunity to basically be here, like I said, as well as do great things with the police department moving forward and really hopefully get their message out to the community, the message of the city, and the transparency when it comes to messaging of the police department and what they want to do effectively. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from New England. My dad was in law enforcement for 25 years. Last 15 years, he was a canine handler. I joined the Marine Corps for 17 years. I was then medically, got out medically. But my last 5 years, I basically served as what Kara did here, but in a deputy director role in the public affairs world. I transitioned out. I did the stay-at-home dad thing, and I'm on my last semester at U of M Dearborn, graduating with a bachelor's in communication and PR. So I'll be here part-time till I walk the end of April, then I'll be here a lot. But again, it's a great opportunity. I can't tell you how ecstatic I am to join the family and the team here. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I look forward to working with you all. So
Welcome to Ferndale.
thank you. And if you don't, and if you have any questions for me at this time, Council and Mayor. No. Again, okay, thank you so much.
Up next on our agenda, our city manager will be introducing the report. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. We'll be introducing our next item for agenda, the Resident Finance Committee report. Leave it to you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I am absolutely thrilled that we have arrived at our destination tonight. Tonight is a presentation of from the Finance Committee, their final report and recommendations for the City Council. Brief background, City Council appointed a resident group to a Finance Committee to study how the city should address the expiring potential Headley override millage in fiscal '25. And so we've worked together on a week-by-week basis from September through early January. And they have finished their report and are here tonight to present that recommendation. I have the honor of introducing Quinn Ziegler, a prominent resident of many commissions, and I do appreciate her role as chair of the committee. So Quinn, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. Like Joe said, we are here to talk about the voted city operating millage, which is commonly called the Headley override, because it expires at the end of next year. So this committee of residents was convened to study how a renewal or non-renewal would impact city staffing and service levels, and how a renewal or non-renewal would impact the progress towards the recommendations of the facilities task force. There are 10 residents on this committee, many of whom are here with me this evening, and collectively we spent hundreds of hours learning about the issues, really diving in, asking questions, and self-education as well. I'm going to hit as many high points as I can this evening, and we're going to jump into it, starting with some background.
Through the chair, Quinn, could we please I'd love to ask anyone who volunteered to stand up and acknowledge yourself, please.
Right?
Come on, guys.
Thank you. So Ferndale collects property taxes, but it does not keep all of those dollars. It collects a portion of the funds to other jurisdictions. Property taxes are calculated based on two values. The first value is the taxable value of your home, which starts at 50% of your purchase price. It typically goes up based on inflation or 5%, whichever is lower, but it can go down, such as in the case of a recession. The other factor that goes into your property taxes is a millage rate, or mills, which is essentially a multiplier. And if you're like me, you like to see an example. So this is my house. I have a taxable value in 2023 of $134,380. And the Oakland County millage rate was 3.9686 mills. We multiply those two numbers together, divide by 1,000, and you can see that in the check I wrote to the city of Ferndale, Ferndale then took $533.30 and gave it to Oakland County. Now, there are certainly other millages on your taxes. You can find them on your tax bill and the lovely insert that the city puts together. There are other taxes for Oakland County, or millages, I should say, for Oakland County, the public school, the library, and a host of other things. A few more terms we need to know: Proposal A and the Headley Amendment. Now, these are both state laws. Proposal A limits the annual increase in taxable value at each property to inflation or 5% per year, whichever is lower. And the Headley Amendment does something similar, but it does it for the entire municipality. Now, the combination of both of these laws together means that recovery from recession is slow, because there is no longer a mechanism for cities to capture tax dollars at the same rate as economic recovery. And we saw this happen during the Great Recession. It started in 2008, and Ferndale did not return to the same taxable value until 2020. Meanwhile, the economy as a whole had generally recovered by around 2015. And in the time that it took Ferndale to recover, the producer price index for asphalt used in road paving had gone up by 60%. We also saw increases in things like fuel, labor, construction, etc. So in 2020, Ferndale had the same tax base that we did in 2008, but the price for the things Ferndale buys had gone up considerably. Now, there was another big change that happened in these intervening years, and that was the Headley override. So let's define that as well as a Headley rollback. You can find this image in the report. This is a sample city containing just 4 homes, and I want to zoom in on years 3 and 4. In year 3, one of the properties sells. So in year 4, the taxes become uncapped and go up considerably. You'll notice that the property taxes for the unsold homes in year 4 go up by 5%. Now, what this means is that if the millage rate had remained at 15 mils, the sum total of all of the properties in year 4 would exceed the threshold allowed by the Headley Amendment. Therefore, the millage is rolled back to 14.4 mils. This is a Headley rollback. And I should mention there is no mechanism by which the millage would naturally go back up again. So the new money collected from the uncapped home is essentially redistributed to all of the homes in the form of a millage reduction. That's why we see the unsold homes saw their taxable value go up by 5%, but their tax bill only went up by 1.4%. What this means is that when we see a large number of uncapped homes here in Ferndale, it does not result in a windfall of money for the city for precisely this reason. So in the face of a millage that can only go down and has no mechanism for recession recovery, what residents can do is opt for a Headley override to voluntarily bring this millage back up. Once it's brought up, rollbacks resume and start going down again. Separately, Proposal A and the Headley Amendment are reasonable policies. Together, they hurt Michigan cities. But until there's change at the state level, residents in cities like Ferndale have used the Headley override to ensure that there is adequate funding for their communities. So speaking of communities, this is our community. This is the General Operating Fund, and it's about $26 million. The money that comes into this general operating fund is coming from property taxes, state revenue sharing, grants, and some other smaller sources. In terms of expenditures, you can see that about half of the budget goes towards police and fire. And if you sum across all of the departments the personnel costs, you would find that 70% of the budget is spent on payroll and things like benefits. If the Headley override is to expire and no replacement source of funding is found, approximately $4 million will need to be cut from this $26 million budget. There have been past changes. Restructuring took place in 2020 following the start of the recession, and it resulted in severe cuts to staffing, including our public safety team, as well as pay freezes, reduced services, and programming. Now, voters did approve the Headley override in 2010 and again in 2015, and those funds were deployed to backfill jobs and to modernize city services. So based on the fact that we had restructuring less than 15 years ago, and the money that we do have today is providing us with modern services, we can start to understand the issue and why this committee of residents was convened. So this committee looked primarily at 3 scenarios. There are more in the report where you can find them side by side. Scenario 1 is no renewal of the Headley override. It is simply allowed to expire. Scenario 2 is a renewal of the override and maintains approximately the same millage amount. Scenario 3 resets the millage to the charter amount. And we can see each of the millages here. Again, scenario 1 with our current city operating and no override, scenario 2 with our current operating and current override, and scenario 3 with that reset. You can see the math and the change from 2023. I have to point out that Headley rollbacks will continue to affect every millage on this chart. There is no floor to protect Ferndale's ability to fund operations at a minimum level. Without voter approval for an override or reset, based on current state law, over time, the total operating mills will approach 0. And that might be okay if our economy only ever goes up. But when there is a recession, if our total operating mills are low, we will repeat the same experience, the cuts, and the deficit that we saw in 2010. So let's talk now more about scenario 1. You should know that the Headley override accounts for 2.2 to 8.6% of the total mills on your combined tax bills. The reason that that's a range is it depends on what school district you're in and whether or not you have a primary residence exemption. The remainder of the charges on the tax bill, the other 90+%, are unrelated to the Headley override, and they will not change as a result of any decision to renew or expire the current override. So last year, I paid $7,052 in property taxes, and of that, $586 were for the Headley override. The other 90%, approximately $6,400, is not going to change as a result of any decision to renew or expire. Now, I'm one data point, and we need to be very careful when we're talking about anecdotal data because everybody's situation is different. And that's when it can become really useful to look at overall trends here in the city. And what we find is that 63%, a good majority of folks, are paying less than $330 per year toward the Headley override. And when I say less than, there are a good number of folks paying less than $100 per year. Another 27% of residents are paying between $330 and $545 per year. So just these 2 segments make up 90% of the population. Now, we can also therefore say that if the Headley override is to expire, 90% of residents would see savings of less than $545, some significantly less so. But with a reduction in property tax revenue comes an impact on city services. So a non-renewal, as I said, would reduce the general operating fund by approximately $4 million. So what this committee did is we reviewed the priority-based budget to understand the consequences of what our recommendation might be. Now, I need to be clear that our understanding is recorded here because it informed our thinking, but it was beyond our scope to recommend specific cuts. One of the ways that you can look at the priority-based budget is based on mandate. So does the city have a federal or state mandate to provide services, a self-mandate, or no mandate at all? And in my mind, it makes the most sense if you're going to cut, start looking at things with no mandate. And that looks like things like Parks and Rec, including all programming, the dog park, and the maintenance of our green spaces. Communication and outreach, including the website, newsletter, and social media. City staff retention programs like professional development. And we have to acknowledge that elimination of programming also results in the layoffs of people and the loss of institutional knowledge, which is really hard to put a price on. And you could completely eliminate everything in this column, and you are not at $4 million yet. You need to keep cutting. So we look at things in the self-mandate column, and that looks like things like public safety, the maintenance of our buildings and vehicle fleet, including police, fire, and DPW. Special event management affecting things like Pride, the Art Festival, the Dream Cruise. Maintenance and landscaping of our downtown core, which would undoubtedly affect our small businesses. Community engagement, fall leaf removal, neighborhood traffic calming, street sweeping, and urban forestry. Everything in this column would need partial reductions, complete elimination, or outsourcing. And if you sum up the mix of those options in column 2, plus the complete elimination in everything in column 1, now you are at $4 million. So this committee's understanding of no renewal, the property tax bills would go down slightly, and services would be decreased, eliminated, or outsourced in ways that result in less local control, like our animal control department. And if additional funding is secured at a later date after cuts have already been made, the damage will be hard to undo. The quality of life here in Ferndale would be dramatically reduced. So scenario 1 is a disinvestment scenario, and I want to transition us to looking at scenarios that maintain or improve services here. To do that, we need to talk about what Ferndale residents love about Ferndale and what they feel is worth keeping. And we do that by looking at the Cobalt Community Survey. And in this statistically significant survey, over 90% of respondents said that it was very or somewhat important to sustain service levels and to implement the recommendations of the facilities task force. And just under 90% said that it was important to hire and keep good employees. So when we look at these responses and others in the Cobalt survey, priorities start to become clear. Ferndale residents want a vibrant business district, recreation for all generations, responsive public safety, special events, and urban green spaces. These services are the core of what Ferndale residents love about Ferndale, and based on survey results, appear willing to continue to fund via their tax dollars. So scenario 2, as I said, renews the millage amount at the current level. Property taxes and city services would remain about the same in the short term. Due to the limit in annual property tax growth as well as other inflationary pressures, cuts would be needed in the near future. There would be no significant capital investment in our buildings and no new or expanded services like those identified in your strategic planning meeting on Saturday. In scenario 3, if City Council and voters opt to approve the charter millage, residents would see a small increase in our property tax bill. 63% of residents would see an increase of less than $300 per year, or about $25 per month, and for some the increase would be less than $100. All told, 90% of residents would see an increase of less than $500 per year, or about $42 per month. So this committee's understanding of renewal is that it maintains current services. And scenario 3 in particular enables funding some of the priorities from the strategic plan. Things like construction of a new recreation center and combined public safety headquarters, a police co-responder program, monthly and annual financial reporting for residents to improve transparency, local drop-off sites for hard-to-recycle events, and things like rat control. Scenario 3 could also enable better maintenance of our buildings. We heard after the facilities task force report that some residents said, Ferndale should have maintained these buildings better. And yeah, we should have, but we cannot change the past. We can only make better decisions moving forward. And if we're going to make better decisions, we have to fund better decisions. So let's now talk about those buildings. In 2022, a group of residents, much like this group before you today, formed the Facilities Task Force. And this group looked at the maintenance needs of the buildings, as well as things like the equitability of the facilities in terms of male and female facilities, looked at health and wellness aspects, accessibility, and a few other things. And they looked at numbers in a few different ways. Now, a repair-only option gets you a building where the air handler runs and the roof doesn't leak. but it doesn't necessarily mean that that building still maintains the support for the people and the processes that they're putting into place in that building. And I want to put a really human face on this, because a lot of times we think of a building as a place that we just walk through, and we need to think about it differently. When we went to one of the fire stations, we went upstairs into the living quarters, and you can smell the vehicle exhaust up there. This is where our firefighters are eating, sleeping, exercising, and training. And I don't know about you, but I would not be able to do my best work in an environment like that. And for a city building a new fire station today, you are not allowed to build living quarters above the vehicle engine bay for precisely that reason. So we really do need to look at options that add a little bit more space so that we can address those and other issues. And that's why the task force looked at a repair and expansion and a replacement, which also includes a little bit more square footage. And what you see is that those dollar amounts are very similar. So this committee's understanding of funding the task force recommendations is funding is not currently available, and some major building needs are being deferred until funding becomes available. And as we all know from our own homes, maintenance needs do not go away if you ignore them. They get worse and they get more expensive. This committee also focused on the need for adequate maintenance going forward. The industry standard for facilities maintenance is 2 to 6% of the budget. Ferndale is currently funding 0.5% of the budget. So clearly there is a discrepancy there. And all of this leads us to our recommendation. As Ferndale residents who have spent months and hundreds of hours studying this issue, we recommend that City Council consider a Headley override millage to reset the city to its charter amount for the November election. And we do this because it meets resident expectations about what it's like to live in Ferndale, maintaining current services, improving services like those discussed in the strategic plan, and making our city more attractive to new talent who works in highly competitive fields, supporting the retention of existing staff, ensuring basic features and a safe and equitable working conditions, and making sure that we're maintaining these buildings for generations to come. There is a minority opinion recorded in the report. This opinion is in agreement for calling for a Headley override, although they preferred a different millage amount. So this opinion is for a scenario about halfway in between scenarios 2 and 3. It should be noted that this option will be insufficient to address the recommendations of the Facilities Task Force, but it does enable some improvements while maintaining current services. We were all in agreement on 4 things, though. That was for smarter spending, making sure we're looking at the dollars that we're spending and using them in the best possible way. Seeking alternate sources of revenue to reduce dependence on future overrides, drafting an economic incentives policy, and providing additional education for prospective homebuyers so there's no surprises when they receive their first tax bill. Now, I understand for next steps that council will decide whether or not to put a millage question on the ballot. I encourage you to consider publishing a list of the programs that will be cut to balance the budget if voters choose not to renew a Headley override, as well as initiatives that will be prioritized if voters approve a renewal or a reset. This will enable voters to make an informed decision at the ballot box. And for residents who are listening, I encourage you to read the report, share it widely, and of course, to vote. So with that, I understand that we do have some time for questions. If residents have questions, I encourage you to call the city manager's office. But if you feel more comfortable talking resident to resident, my email address is here for you. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Quinn, and committee for a very thorough report. You really laid it out for us, and I really appreciate you all taking your time, your Thursday nights, to run this committee and to really share what we need to do and what our options are. And and what we're up against. So we have some decisions to make regarding this community, and I think it was very thorough and well done, and I applaud you all for it. Hopefully, you're all doing something better on Thursday nights now. I would like to, I think, considering this is such a big topic, before we move forward, because I know it's going to take some time, I do see that we had our commissioner in the audience, and I just wanted to know if you had some updates before we take time, because I'd like the residents to be able to speak on this. Okay. Okay, all right. Well, then I think I will take some time now for, if there are some, for the audience, members in the audience to speak if they have questions that we can.
Chair's discretion.
Sorry, what's that? At the chair's discretion to answer questions and/or reach out to the chair, but we'd like to hear what you have to say. So if you'd like to line up at the podium, we will hear you. And also just know that there will also be opportunity, if you didn't want to do this now, to speak on anything on the agenda during call to audience as well. All right, please state your name and where you live, and we'll allow for 3 minutes for you to speak on this topic.
Hi, Mayor and Council. I'm Kate Baker at 1615 Beaufield Street. I was a member of the committee. I've got a few quick personal comments as well as comments from our Planning Commission Chair, Michelle Foster, who couldn't be here tonight. So I'll start with mine. First, just thanking the mayor and the council and the amazingly dedicated city staff that you have for your support of our committee's work. When I was in your seats during the Great Recession, we made deep and permanent cuts to city staffing and services. The 2 voter-approved millages that were passed over the past 15 years kept us treading water at these reduced service levels. Sometimes we did more with less. Often we did less with less. We put Band-Aids on buildings and reworked spaces. We got creative with realignments of city departments, technology, and staffing. We kept waiting for the next partnership, interlocal agreement, or grant to let us inch forward. And when it comes to our facilities, I've now been part of that chasing and waiting game for over 15 years. So now we're asking for a chance to do more than just tread water. A full Headley override would allow the city to fund urgent facilities needs, retain highly trained staff like those we saw this evening, and deliver excellent public programs. I know that you're considering a resolution tonight requesting the restoration of state shared revenue. Yes, thank you. In combination with that plea of the legislature, please also consider taking immediate local action here on this committee's recommendation. And thank you again. Quickly, from Planning Commission Chair Michelle Foster, who was not able to be here tonight. She says, as a Ferndale homeowner and resident of 15 years, a former employee of the city, and an expert in land use and affordable housing finance, and as a former member of sinking fund and school bond committees, I would like to offer my support of the recommendations of the 2023 Resident Finance Committee report. First and foremost, thank you to the committee. I lean heavily on your recommendation, knowing the energy you put into that effort. Having worked for the city, I know how efficient and hardworking city staff and leadership are, how hard they're working to get us the best services available with limited resources. Though housing and living costs are high, I support the recommendation of the committee. If we don't support the override, our infrastructure, city, and residents will suffer, costing us more in the long run. I highly value this community and will vote to maintain it. From Michelle Foster. Thank you.
Hello?
Good evening. My name is Rachel Downs, and I live at 459 West Troy Street. I was also a part of the Facilities Task Force, and I want to applaud the work and the recommendations of the Finance Committee. I don't have to tell any of you how difficult it is to craft good public policy, and I have been nothing but impressed with the work of the Ferndale City staff, and I implore you to put the Headley override on the ballot, because if most residents understood how high the return on investment is on the small portion of their tax bill that goes to support city services, public safety and the maintenance of these critical facilities, as well as our programming, I think they would all readily support the renewal of the millage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening. Thank you for hearing us. I'm Tom Newman. I've lived at 1522 Kenton Street for 17 years. I'm a licensed architect and construction project manager for a variety of projects that have focused on workspaces. I was honored to be part of the facilities task force. I learned many things by talking to the city staff and touring the city facilities. Our buildings have not been maintained properly. As a professional, I can say that. I was especially surprised by the poor condition of the offices of the police, fire department, and public works. We are an old community at a crossroads. I believe that we will lose in the long term if we don't start to correct this lack of funding for building maintenance in particular. Those of us who have been here a while have enjoyed rising property values. I believe that fully funding the city will continue this trend, but I worry that defunding the city could cause decisions to be made that may hurt this rising tide. We can either let our assets degrade further, or we can correct past actions to make our city the best it can be. I support the Headley override millage. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Melanie Piana, 387. I'm in a personally odd but pleasantly stress-free position to be here tonight as someone who led the appointment process of forming the financial task force as mayor. And I am so pleased and thankful for all the committee members who stood up for the city to really investigate and dive into what is complicated tax and local government financing, which takes a long time to learn as someone who was on council for 14 years. And I also want to extend my gratitude to the city manager and the staff as well. You know, we have residents who care deeply about our community, and they have given significant personal time to come up with these recommendations. And ultimately, this is the third Headley override that is being brought to the voters, and it's ultimately the voters who decide what type of government services they want and what type of city they want to live in. And so what hasn't changed in the last 15 years that the former councils, including myself, had to navigate was that the hope that the state would change how it funds cities, and that it would have fixed the brokenness of the Headley and Prop A. And that has not happened, and it's the same as it was 15 years ago. So the same pressures on Ferndale's elected officials are the same from 2011, and I would say the situation has worsened from a decade ago with the costs rising, higher demands of expectations of residents. We improved our services for the last 10 years and created operational efficiencies for the residents, thereby increasing expectations that the city can deliver. And so we've created a higher demand, which I think all of our residents were worthy of receiving better service delivery. And of course, I have always supported our staff here, and they deserve a great place to work, which is up-to-date, safe, and equitable, which I love that language out of the report. So it was with full heart support that I encouraged this council to put the full 20 mills on the ballot. I know how stressful that can be in your shoes of making that decision, but ultimately it's the voters who decide. And I encourage you to move forward with that and do everything in your power to advocate with our state legislators to continue to fix this broken system so we don't have to keep going back to our residents and asking them to fill the gap that the state should be doing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris McLaughlin, and while I'm not a resident of Ferndale, I am the state director of an organization called the Secular Alliance of Michigan, and we have constituents here in Ferndale that I want to speak for. I came here today to advocate for a principle that safeguards the liberty for all, secularism. Secularism is the guardian of religious freedom, ensuring that the state neither becomes the enforcer of religious orthodoxy nor the adversary of personal belief. The annals of history are littered with the debris of religious conflicts, but nowhere is the lesson clearer than in the American colonies. Here, amidst the seeming uniformity of Christian belief, religious violence and discrimination was commonplace. Mandatory religious taxes supported only the official denomination of the colony, and denominations routinely disrupted each other's gatherings with mob violence. Dissenters faced brutal physical retribution. Quakers, for instance, had their ears cut off by local government officials as a mark for proselytizing, a barbaric precursor to the ultimate penalty for repeat offenders, which was hanging. It was against this backdrop of bloodshed and persecution that figures like Jefferson and Madison arose. With the support of the Baptists and Presbyterians of Virginia, they passed the groundbreaking Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom in 1786. This law declared that no one should be compelled to support any religion, ensuring that the most abusive forms of religious discrimination were put to an end. The statute was a declaration of independence from theocratic tyranny, a cornerstone upon which the wall separating church and state was enacted. This law became the blueprint for the establishment and exercise clauses of the First Amendment of our Constitution, which goes on in Article 6 to reinforce these liberties by prohibiting religious tests for public office. I call upon believers and non-believers alike to stand united in defense of a principle that ensures the freedom of all. The horrors of the past, born out of religious intolerance, must not be the blueprint for our future. Secularism offers us a path forward, a society where faith is a matter of personal conviction, not public coercion. The encroachments upon secularism we witness today calls for public school prayer, government chaplains, religious references in our national symbols are not mere policy disputes. They are breaches in the very foundation of our collective liberty. Each concession to theocratic influence is a step back into the shadows of intolerance and persecution. Thus, as we stand at this crossroads, let us recommit ourselves to the principle of secularism, not as a rejection of faith, but as an affirmation of our unwavering commitment to liberty, equality, and the dignity of all individuals.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I just want to remind everyone that right now, at this moment, we are speaking regarding the Headley. There will be an opportunity for public comment for anything on or off the agenda in our next segment.
Okay, mine was about something similar as well.
Well,
I
then-
prepared it, it's okay, I mean, I got 3 minutes.
Well, actually, because this is regarding the Headley, why don't we, right after is call to audience, and you'll be able to have that 3 minutes to say what you need to say.
When does that one come up?
Right after this.
Right after this?
Right after
Okay,
this.
great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name's Kyle Savoy. I live at 2935 Inman Street. Been a resident of Ferndale since 2018. Excuse me. I had the pleasure to be selected to serve on this council, and I got to learn a lot about some very complex public funding, especially the Headley. I read a new thing even in Quinn's presentation today and still learn something new. It's incredibly complex. But when I first moved to Ferndale in 2018, I unknowingly had my taxes uncapped, as many new homeowners do to the community, and was very surprised at the amount of taxes I had to pay. And I'd really joined this committee to want to learn more and understand and know what the implications are and what it means for Ferndale and its future. I'm a civil engineer by trade. I work in facilities management and construction. And with that, I really have learned to understand and appreciate what it is that a good building and a good community can do for the people that live and work there, especially in today's competitive work environment. Employee retention and attraction is incredibly important, as we saw the great police officers that were honored tonight. It was great to see their service, but if I were a new recruit, honestly, and walked through that police department as it is today, I would have a hard time being sold. Just the state of the facilities in the community has gone far beyond disrepair, and it needs to be addressed. So with that, I strongly support the recommendations that we worked on over the last many months. we put a lot of time and effort into this, and while it does impact all citizens, directly go towards their pocketbook, it's good to know that that money can go towards a good place to make the place you live safer, with happier employees, and a better place overall to be. And with that, I also would emphasize to council the importance in the report, the recommendation to put money towards facilities. That's a strong emphasis of our report. With that extra money, while it could go to other general fund purposes to serve the needs and vision of council, facilities are especially in dire need. So I would encourage that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Bust, 906 M. Will Street, partner at the Rust Belt Market, 9 in Woodward, and licensed builder. And I just want to say congratulations to Donnie and Rolanda. I've seen you guys since the election. I was part of the community-led task force with a lot of people that were here today, and I just wanted to say it was a pleasure serving with you guys. And wow, that report you did, Quinn, or all of you, and presented, amazing. I highly recommend that somehow we get that out, social media. I don't know, the residents need to see that, because I thought I learned a lot before, but I just sat here and I just learned another round of how complicated this issue is and how it's difficult to understand. And it is so important to get this Headley override done. I built my house in 2020 in Ferndale, and wasn't completely aware, and Jordan, who's sitting back there, kind of educated me as to some of the taxes I might be paying, and completed it, and they did the assessment, and wow, I was, I think, this is not a brag, this is, I might be one of the highest taxpayers in Ferndale. Because he explained to me, because you built new, you're exposed to all the millages. Still didn't quite understand. But I am completely willing. I might be on that upper echelon of people that are going to pay more if the Headley override goes through, and I'm good with it. Because, like I said, this gentleman that spoke before me pointed out, when we walked through the facilities, the fire department, the police department, my dad was a state trooper, retired state trooper, still is a police officer. And I was kind of, they were talking about retention, attracting new recruits. You want the best and brightest for the police department and the fire department. And there's a very competitive nature to recruiting police and firefighters. And if the tipping point is how am I going to, especially fire department, they have to live there. If the tipping point is how am I going to spend most of my time up above where they were, if you guys could all see what they were kind of, it wasn't, I'm not going to say it was squalor, but it could be so much better. And I'm happy to pay more in taxes, and I think that we need to just educate a lot of the citizenry how important it is to get some money into these facilities to attract the best and the brightest. And that was the big takeaway that I had, was how important that is in retention and attraction. So I support the Headley override, and thanks for everybody for doing the work.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kimberly Lennox, 2036 Highland Street. Being on the Finance Committee was eye-opening, challenging, and rewarding. This was all of the very dense, complex information that we studied. And you'll see all of my notes and scribbles in here. We did not take this lightly. And everything that we studied informed our recommendations and our report. My background is in graphic design, and a fundamental aspect of what I do is synthesizing information or ideas and conveying them in ways that make them easier for everybody to understand. As a designer and a homeowner in Ferndale, I applied for this committee because I was passionate about understanding on a deeper level how our property taxes work and why they're so important, as well as using that knowledge to help members of my community understand. I also was impacted by a substantial property tax pop-up in 2017, the year after I bought my home. So I was intimately familiar with and admittedly somewhat bitter towards property tax increases. Being on this committee helped me understand the intricate mechanics of our property taxes, reformed my previous incorrect assumptions about them and showed me that they are heavily controlled by state level policy and showed me the various ways in which they are an investment in this city that I love. From our facilities to our amazing staff, maintenance and special events. So it was a great experience and an honor to serve on this committee, and I stand behind our recommendation, and I implore you to as well. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, Brooke Ciambelli, 261 West Saratoga Street. I am a 9-year resident of Ferndale. My husband grew up here and in the area, but I am a newbie. And I am so proud to be raising my daughter in this city. What led me to want to be on the committee is I have no knowledge, no preconceived notion of what goes into a city government. After seeing all of the new city council people all come up and see all of the wonderful information that came out during the election season, I wanted to know more and I wanted to get involved. And that's why I applied to be on this committee. I had a lot of great things written down and I'm probably not going to hit on any of it, but going off what a lot of the other people said is basically, I think I have in bold and underlined, finance is hard. It's complicated. You saw Kimberly's binder. We had a lot of information thrown at us. We took a lot of information about the breadth of type of person who lives in Ferndale. It's not just us 10-year residents who have kids, whatever that may be. There were people on the committee who were landlords, who had just purchased in the city, who had just experienced their pop-up. And all of those opinions and all of those ideas have come through in the report that we've put together. For anyone who wants to, I think the words I used were, judge, belittle, and bemoan our city workers and city council and mayor, whether that be online or, out front or wherever that may be. I want you to take a moment and really think about how you are going to be a part of the solution. I think all of us members wanted to be a part of making this city better and being part of a solution. And I think that with our recommendation, while not everybody's going to like it, not all of you will like it, that's okay because we took our time, we took in all of the information, and we just want everyone to understand what we understood coming out of this situation. So I hope that my small part in the process will allow others to really take it on. Fern and Learn is a great thing the city offers. I think registration is open still, once a week for a few months. Please do so. You'll learn so much. You'll know exactly what's going on and know that none of them are hiding anything or trying to pull anything past us. I think that's my biggest takeaway. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is Dale Villarolo. I know it's hard to say. I was proud to be a part of the Financial Review Committee. I was also proud to be part of the Facilities Task Force. These two committees taught me a lot about what's really going on behind the scenes in our city. Being a 20-plus year resident here, I've been very curious about that for a number of years. I don't like to pay taxes any more than anybody else does. But it's important to understand the small amount that this will affect most of us with the Headley override. It's a tough nut to crack. This was pretty hard stuff to comprehend and digest and required a lot of reading outside of here. And yes, my brain did hurt many days after I would go home at night. I want to stress to our community, read this report. It's spelled out well, and I think we all need to educate ourselves when it comes time to vote. a small amount of people go to the polls, and all of this stuff is so important. Our facilities are in shambles. Our female police officers have a space that's maybe, 15 by 10? That are their changing rooms where they have to be. It's terrible. There's a sewer line running in front of them. This building, we don't know. It still might look decent from the outside, but it's not in good condition at all. So I really want to encourage everybody to take the time to study this report and to understand it and to contact Joe or any of us if you have questions about the whole process and what we just did. And once again, it was an honor. And Quinn, you did a phenomenal job. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Commissioner.
Hey, I guess to give you a quick county update, just to ease into the Headley comments, is that a way to skirt around the 3-minute limit? Okay, so
All right,
don't answer
Commissioner.
that. I'm Charlie Cavallo, County Commissioner, and just a quick county update, because we don't have a Headley override, our mills have gone from 5.12, like 15 or 20 years ago, to now 3.96. So that then means, to what Quinn was saying, our general revenues just got back to pre-Great Recession levels. So 2008, 2009, they just evened out in the 2021, 2022 fiscal year. And, cops cost more, cop cars cost more. This is the county update, we have recruitment and retention issues because we can't pay our 5,000 employees what they deserve. Also, we have over $800 million in deferred maintenance, and our courts are backed up because the county runs the county courts and we run the 52nd district courts because we don't have just the necessary funding for that baseline staff. So this is the county update. But real quick about the headline conversation, I think what all these folks on this committee are trying to show us by coming up here and talking about this is, one, they can make a great PowerPoint, like great job. That's the most interesting PowerPoint about taxes I've ever seen. But the second thing is they're trying to show you that you can trust them, because that's fundamentally what we're talking about, I think. Right, we could talk about the economic benefit and how our housing values will go up, or how it would be awesome to have a new community center, or how police would be better served if they had better facilities. But what they're saying underneath all that is like, trust us, right? Vote, participate. What makes Ferndale Ferndale is the fact that there's all these people at the city council meeting on a work night. Like, that's why we're special. So I think just when we're talking about this, recognizing what makes us a community that is the same as many other places, but in its own way unique. And so to that end, I just wanted to, when I was sitting in the back, I was trying to think, when do I use the government? Because in one of the other towns I represent, they cut their Headley override in May in a special election, Berkeley, and they had to cut capital improvement planning. This is the next city council meeting. They cut tree trimming, they cut, the mayor told me, they cut, in the next meeting, they cut leaf collection chipper services, capital improvement plan, and capital equipment purchases. So that's like snowplows and stuff. And that was just in the first meeting because they had to find $2 million to cut, and Berkeley is much smaller than us. So just thinking about what I do with the city every day, I just am going to run through my day real quick. I wake up in a house where my basement doesn't flood anymore after we spent $9,000 with a company that then the DPW, or the building department, Emily came and checked it out and make sure that they didn't mess up the project. Then I walk down Marshall, because I live on East Marshall, right by Desert Oasis, on a street that the DPW fixed this huge pothole on my street. It's now like kind of a speed bump because it's 2 inches raised, but like they fixed a huge pothole. I go to Desert Oasis Coffee, which the Economic Development Department attracted. I then had my nieces, this is just thinking about today, my nieces came over, so I went to Wilson Park, which is run by the Parks and Rec Department and maintained by them. I then, because I'm a millennial, I don't have a printer, so I went to the library to print stuff. And now I'm here with you guys. So and after this I'm going to go to Got Pho, which, Jenny from the DDA is the one that makes downtown Ferndale cool. So just if I could just ask, and forgive me for the overage on time, when we're thinking about this, it's thinking about how we can trust our place and our people and how we use our city so much. And I think we just don't recognize it because it's everywhere. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good evening. Sorry, excuse me. Dennis Whitey, 1510 Camden. By day, you all know I'm a criminal defense attorney. I'm literally in the middle of a capital attempted murder trial. But as busy as I am, this is the issue of the year and probably the decade, is funding. And this is going to fundamentally decide Ferndale's future. And so why I thought it was so important to come down is last year I appeared before the council and said it's very important to put this committee together, the finance committee, to get this good study. Back in 2011, I served on a similar Ferndale fiscal review committee, I believe, back then with Councilman Pollock at the time before he was up on council. And it was quite an eye-opener for me. As much as I knew about government, it really let me know not only about government more in budgeting, but about my hometown that I lived in. And I've never forgot those lessons, and that was back in, 2011. And what I see is a very similar situation in 2024 that we were facing in 2011. And it's the critical, do we keep funding going to keep our services, or do we drastically cut them? You just heard Charlie talk about Berkeley, what Berkeley had to do, what they had to cut. I personally value public safety. As a public safety person, I value quick response times. I value Ferndale Police. When somebody calls 911, they get police there within minutes. Hands down. There's no issue in this town. We know that. You go a couple towns over, you might be lucky if you get them in a couple minutes or more than that. Same thing with EMS. My neighbor, she's been very ill, has had to use our Ferndale Fire Department a lot from breathing issues. And when she calls 911, there's a fire truck there, a police car, and an ambulance. That's not in every community. And if we choose the direction of let's save a few dollars at the expense of these critical services, I think we're going to see a drastically different Ferndale. And that's something I definitely do not want to see. But what's the next step? Truthfully, this city council cannot decide the Headley. It's not up to you. And it's only up to you to put it on the ballot. And I think any city council member who did not vote to put this at least on the ballot is literally depriving the residents and voters of actually making this critical choice in how Ferndale's future should develop. So I would encourage the council to put this on the ballot. I encourage people to look at the issue. Granted, I'm in support of things, but I don't necessarily say, hey, just trust one thing or the other. Look at the report. Talk to people. Quinn just put her email out there. She's one of the easiest people to talk to and the most knowledgeable about the things in the city. And so don't just necessarily trust, but really look at it. Let's have that community conversation. And the chips are going to fall where they may, but they rise and fall at the vote of Ferndale people. And in order to do that, we need the 5 of you to simply put it on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm closing public comment, and now I'm opening it up to council for any comments or questions.
If I may, through the mayor, I want to speak to the commission, to the committee. It's a unique event, especially in today's climate, when a group of people who don't know each other, come from different walks of life and political ideologies, are able to come together and work on a civic project involving city finances. I cannot thank you enough for all of your hard work, your time, your energy, your dedication to our city. You all took this task very seriously, and you weren't afraid to ask the hard questions. It's not easy to lead these type of committees, and so I want to call out Ms. Ziegler on her incredible leadership skills and your ability to ensure that the committee stayed on topic and ensured that all members of the committee were able to participate in the discussions. All of you took your roles very responsible. You took the roles and responsibilities, and it shows in the report that you created, and you should all be very, very proud. It has been an honor for me to spend the last couple of months with all of you, watching you work together on this committee. So thank you.
Through the chair, I would also like to thank you all. It is profoundly educating to go through municipal finance. It is weird, it's cumbersome. You've done a fantastic job disseminating all of it. I do have some questions, as usual. And I wanted to start with a question about different models of funding. And I know that you have a lot of this in there, so please forgive me. I just want to make sure that we have it on the public record. In terms of, instead of a Headley override millage versus, for instance, bonds or a special millage, what sort of consideration was given towards those different funding models, and why ultimately did you decide to make the choice of the Headley override?
Sure. Is it okay if I take a moment to talk about what a special purpose millage is?
Absolutely.
All right. So special purpose millage is outlined in the report under scenario 4. And so essentially a special purpose millage takes from a pool of available mills. A special purpose millage in and of itself does not add additional tax burden, but it takes existing money and it says this money can now only be used for this purpose. Now, pairing it with some sort of, a voted city millage would then dedicate those new dollars to the special purpose, and we see that happening in some other cities around here as well. The reason that we kind of leaned away from a special purpose millage is really in bullet number 2, because a special purpose millage requires 2 questions on the ballot. The first question is for voter approval to amend the charter. And then the next question is for the special purpose itself. And if you're going to do an override to have new money, that is now 3 questions on the ballot. If you're going to do 2 special purpose millages on the same ballot, that is now 5 questions on the ballot. So it got a little bit of, it is an extra hurdle to educating voters, and it risks, some exhaustion in, now I have to learn about 5 things rather than just 1 thing. The other issue is flexibility. There are trade-offs with a special purpose millage. A special purpose millage is consistent funding for that purpose. So for example, buildings have seen a lot of disinvestment. So doing a facility special purpose millage is a way to protect against future disinvestment, but there's a trade-off there, because if the situation changes, unforeseen circumstances occur, that money cannot be reallocated to a different purpose. So that's kind of what the special purpose millages are and where we kind of fell on that. In terms of bond, we felt that the things that Ferndale might want to bond for, particularly a new recreation center, a combined public safety headquarters, there was still a lot of questions about those particular items in terms of, where is it going to be built? Does Ferndale own the right property to build a new construction of some sort, et cetera, et cetera. And we just didn't think that it was ready for the quick decision that this council would likely need to make to put something on the November ballot. So I would say that we are not opposed to a bond, if I can speak generally to what I feel the committee's sense is. We are not opposed to a bond, we just felt that it was not ready for November. And I believe that there is a section in the report that says if City Council does not opt for the full override, there will no longer be sufficient bonding capacity for a council bond, and so a voter-approved bond may at that point become appropriate.
Follow-up question. You had made mention during your presentation of making sure that we allocate funding to facilities, so earmarking, ensuring that the funding goes there. With the Headley override going into the general fund, how do we achieve that? How do we make sure that, like we would with a special millage, how do we ensure that that funding goes to the facilities?
Sure. So one of the ways that that can occur is a council bond. So you guys could say, we're taking this pot of money and it's being dedicated towards, I believe that would probably be the construction of a new recreation center and public safety headquarters. But Joe, if you have more that you wanted to add on that.
Oh, that is right. So in a hypothetical situation, if the millage proposed was adopted, that would provide the revenue stream in which city council could then issue bonds against that revenue stream. Once you do that, you're pledging the general fund to the debt service, so you're obligating it.
And through the chair, just a follow-up question for clarification purposes, because again, I get confused with the different bonding language. So with a council bond, does it behave exactly like a traditionally voted on bond, where it is legally obligated, we cannot move?
Correct.
Okay.
The distinction would be whether a bond would be approved by a voter referendum. And in this case, the hypothetical, the revenue is there because the voters approved the millage. And so now council can pledge that revenue, but you're still committed. And then once you adopt that resolution to issue bonds for that purpose, voters would still have 45 days to petition to force it to a referendum.
Through the chair. If I could add on to that for council, or for Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski's benefit. We would also, as a council, have to adopt a policy that says X number of dollars or percentage of dollars will, from the general fund will always go to maintenance of these buildings, because that's one of the issues that we face right now.
And we would express that as a percentage?
I think a percentage would be better because you're fluctuating with the income that's coming into the city. You could do it an amount, but then you risk other projects not being funded because you've set a certain amount.
Right, so essentially we'd be looking at what the gentleman had mentioned as like 2.2% to, I think it was 2 to 6% is the standard for building maintenance as a percentage of the budget, something like that? Okay.
Any other questions from council?
I just want to say, thank you very much. I really appreciate the work that you all put into it and the conversations that we've had, and I've learned a lot. And there's some things I really liked that you put in there, the economic incentive policy, the one-page educational document for prospective home buyers. I think those are really important. I had one question, and I did ask it in our study thing, but I'm curious on page 36 where it says the long-term residents, and then the residents who bought in 4 to 10, and then there's the recent. And I know you mentioned it was just a year, but is that correct? So recent buyers, is that a year? The 9% most residents who bought recently, or would that be up to 4 years?
Let me make sure I read the correct chart before I respond. Page 36?
Yeah.
The table that shows the taxable value of the home, that table, that's based on the Oakland County's numbers they shared with us. That's their table. That's based on 2023.
So I think it's no secret because people informed me during the campaign that they were sick of hearing about it, but government finance is what I do for a living. I, by day, am the associate budget director for the city of Detroit. I know what happens to a city when revenues disappear and when services are cut and infrastructure is neglected. I am in my 8th year with the city of Detroit attempting to reverse that for the city, and it has cost us hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to do it. Now scale that down to Ferndale level, And that's still a lot of money. And I think this report is some of the best work I've ever seen on municipal finance. And I get reports like this a lot at work. This is incredible. This lines everything out so clearly in such an understandable way. And this document is going to be, I think, the linchpin of our conversations with our constituents as council members, with all the groups around the city that have a stake in this. It's just incredible work. And I can't thank you and thank the committee members enough. I was honored to chair the facilities task force that everyone talked about this evening. And I am so heartened to see that the work that the task force did with some incredible folks helping me with that and working together didn't go to nothing. It wasn't for naught. It led to the next important conversation, which is how do we make this happen? How do we make this city the best city it can be? We all love Ferndale. We love what Ferndale gives us. We love what it means to be Ferndalian. And it is because we have a city government that goes above and beyond, that cares, that does that small extra thing that a lot of our sister cities around us, no shade, don't do. I want to keep doing that. Thank you for this work.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if I could add, we did have printed copies available for members of the public attending. If you'd like a copy of the report, the report's back on the back table.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know how much more I can say. It's one of the reasons why I really wanted to visit the committee during your last meeting before you wrote up your report, to thank you for all of the work that you all have done. And I recognize how much work went into this, and this is, as stated, is very clear, very concise, and I can't wait for the community members to be able to read this. I'm happy that they're going to be able to have a firm understanding of what we're up against and be able to make a decision should it pass tonight. Actually, we're just receiving it tonight, but should it come to the ballot in November, that they will make the choices. And that's what this community does. This is what we do. So I just really want to thank you all again, and city staff, for all of your work in this. And I now am going to ask for a motion to receive this report.
I move we receive the report.
Second.
Johnson.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. Thank you, committee. We are now coming up to the point where we are going to have call to audience. This is for audience members to speak on anything on the agenda for 3 minutes, on or off the agenda. And please state your name and where you're from, or if you're visiting us, or your address. And please proceed with the first audience member.
Hi, my name's Andrea Clayton. I am a resident. I live at 1920 Browning, and I am actually a lifelong resident of Ferndale. I've lived here my whole life. My parents bought their house on Shovelin when I was 2 weeks old, and I can just tell you that's well over 50 years. So I'm actually here. There's a small part of Ferndale that is designated into the Hazel Park Schools. So I am here representing the Say Yes for Hazel Park Schools committee, and we have a bond proposal that is coming up. And it has a lot of improvements to our safety and security, interior, exterior doors, construction, remodeling, upgrades to heating and cooling systems, replacement boilers, just to name a few things. There's a lot of talk about, mills going up, when in actuality, the mills will stay the same and then drop off by like $1.5 million after 2 years. This is a 30-year bond. Lots of improvements. I know I don't have time to talk about everything. The 5 reasons to vote yes for the Hazel Park Schools bond is every child deserves a safe place to go to school and be free from distractions. Hazel Park school buildings are aging beyond their expected lifespan and need attention. We've had to cancel basketball games. The gym roofs are leaking, ceiling tiles are falling in some of our buildings. Reason number 3, children learn differently than they did 70 years ago. Classrooms were not designed for special education, physical and occupational therapy, and counseling services. Reason number 4, great schools make great communities. And keeping dollars in the classroom to have great programs is important to keep our community thriving. My husband and I have lived in this area our whole lives. We're both graduates of Hazel Park Schools. However, we live in Ferndale. Both of my children graduated from Hazel Park Schools, and my mom worked for Hazel Park Schools for 42 years, and I happen to also be a Hazel Park School employee, but I'm asking for support as a resident, alumni, mom, and an employee. So just looking for some support on our ballot issues for May 7th. Vote yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Anderson. I am actually a Hazel Park resident. I'm also here to speak a little bit on the bond proposal coming up in Hazel Park on May 7th. Along with Ms. Clayton, I am part of the Say Yes Committee as a community member. A Hazel Park alumni. 3 children graduated from Hazel Park. My mother graduated from Hazel Park. I am also an employee. I speak tonight as a community member, not as an employee, because years ago we passed some bonds when my children were students, and we had a track tearing up, and we had a football field where the band kids were twisting ankles every time they practiced. And our community, including our Ferndale residents who live in the Hazel Park School District, pulled together and passed a bond that allowed us to renew all of that. And the joy and the pride that I saw on the kids' faces when they got to go out there on a field that was level and clean and beautiful, I want that for our current students when it comes to our indoor classrooms. I have friends that work in our maintenance department who will tell you when they go to buy parts for our ever-aging HVAC systems and boilers, they get laughed at. They're like, we haven't made those parts in 20 years. So if we can find the parts, it costs a lot of money to replace them. Our keys that we're looking to do is improve safety for our students, because every student, whether they're Hazel Park residents, Ferndale, or a surrounding city resident, they all deserve to go to school and feel incredibly safe. Our schools were built at a time where we didn't have the worries we have today. We also need classrooms that are better equipped for special ed, therapies, social emotional learning, kids being able to be comfortable in the classroom so they're comfortable learning. So we're here to make people aware that there is an election on May 7th. We're encouraging people to go out to vote, and we are hoping that our Ferndale residents, that our Hazel Park School residents, will continue to support our schools like they have greatly in the past. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Jim Kleiner. I'm at 340 Allen. I'm going to speak about secularism too. I was going to apologize to all the people that were here that left. Just sounds like their property taxes went up and they didn't have a good mortgage person. I've been doing mortgages for 10 years and that shouldn't have happened. So the mortgage person should have told them. But I want to start off saying that I am fortunate enough to be living in Ferndale, where most people are open and accepting. You know, as an atheist, the thought of proudly stating that in public makes me feel a little bit uneasy. I know that we're an LGBTQ-friendly place, but not all places are like this, and I hope one day to be able to say without any fear that I'm proudly non-religious. Not to say that having a religion is a bad thing, but I do think there's a place for it, and that place, I don't think is, it's not government, schools, or politics. I think it belongs at home. I think it's a personal belief. I may not believe in God, but I do believe in the equality of rights. Like, no government should be putting forth one religious agenda over another, and this includes non-religious rights. It's either the same for everyone or it's the same for no one. So that's why I'm fighting for secularism. To me, secularism is equality. The city of Warren elected to enact a prayer station inside of City Hall, which goes directly against separation of church and state, which favors religion. The atheist group, there was one that sued and won to put up a reason station alongside it as an alternative. There shouldn't be any nativity scenes enacted by cities unless we put forth all religious and non-religious cultural viewpoints. The nice thing about secularism is that it's a middle ground. I think of having God as a +1 and not having God as a -1 And secularism, it's right in the middle. Like, you can have your beliefs, but they need to be separate from government, politics, and education. Now, I'm not a parent yet, so I'm not sure if schools are reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I noticed that we did it here today. But if they still are, the line "One Nation under God" wasn't even added until the 1950s, and it assumes that we were built on a Christian nation, which is false. You know, the Founding Fathers and Constitution were and are secular. We don't need to be indoctrinating kids from the start. I say we teach them everything and let them make their own decisions. So I want to promote secularism. I want to get in front of it to let people know that it's okay to proudly state if they're non-religious and not to have any fear of repercussions or consequences. I'd like to see in the future a place where those can go that they identify as non-religious. You know, a lot of people that stop attending the church, they feel like there's no physical location for them to go where they can be among like-minded people. And the cool thing about secularism too is that you can still be religious. I've met plenty of secular Jewish people, for example. So ultimately, we're fighting to have a community we can call our own. We're fighting religious bigotry. I want people to know that we're out there, we exist, and that we're good people. You know, we fight for LGBTQ rights, for women's rights. We're on the same page. You know, I'm hoping we can have our coming out in the near future and show that it's okay. And there are a lot more of us out there than you might think. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sharon Chess, 1119 Earl Boulevard, president of the Ferndale Community Concert Band. And we're having our next concert on Palm Sunday, March 24th at the high school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And like all concerts, our concerts are free, but our musicians will be doing a musician bake sale. So please come and enjoy this concert. We're dedicating it to our eldest member who recently passed. He played the tuba in our band and string bass in the jazz band and one jazz collective. And he has been one of our longest term members. We've only been in business for 9 years and he was there almost all 9 years. And so we're dedicating this to him and to his family, and we hope to have a wonderful attendance here. On another note, and due to Headley, I have a great idea because that's what I'm filled with all the time. Come October, when it's Halloween time, why not do an open house of the DPW, the police department, and the Ferndale fire department buildings? Wouldn't take much decoration. You would have to, guide them through so nobody trips and falls. So just on a fun note, consider doing an open house. Make the residents aware of the conditions of these facilities. It's not an exaggeration. And although we've provided the updated equipment that all of our safety people and our DPW people need, they also need places to store that stuff, places to practice with it, places to work and live safely when they're out there trying to protect us. Let's protect them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cora Kleiner. I live at 340 Allen. I came here to support my husband making a speech on secularism. I wanted to thank you, the committee, for all their work. That was really enlightening. As a taxpayer, I don't enjoy paying taxes, but I would like it to go to infrastructure. I think it's really enlightening to see. I am coming up to say I'm grateful that I live in Ferndale and I feel safe to walk in front of a space and say that I'm atheist. We are going to be going to Warren to fight for secularism, and that is scary. Since the city of Warren has not one prayer station, but now 2, they doubled down on it. The city of St. Clair Shores has In God We Trust on their police cars now, which as a non-theist, that's scary. When you know the history of it. I'm sorry that I'm tearing up, but this is scary things. And I think the reason why we're coming here is because it's important that we show up and say that we are here, that we are members of society, we are taxpayers, we care about our communities, and we're good people, and it does, when we're indoctrinating on mass scales, it does hurt. So, thank you for allowing us to speak, and I'm grateful for all the work that you all do, that all of the people do to make the world a better place. So thank you.
Thank you. That now will close it. We're now closing public comment, and we will be going to item 6 on the agenda, a public hearing regarding our DNR grant applications. And I believe that's that's Parks and Rec Director Lorena.
That would be me. All right, good evening. So just about every year, we apply for MDNR recreation grants to help fund our park improvement projects. And this year, we are applying for renovation of the inline skating rink at Harding Park under the MDNR grant. The city at one time had several inline skating rinks in our park system. And now we're down to 2, one at Geary Park and one at Harding Park. Harding Park being our most popular and utilized rink where we put most of our resources in at this time. We are moving towards just putting all of our resources into Harding Park, especially for budget restraints and the use that's going of it in that park. But it's on its last leg. It's been on its last leg for a couple years. You can look at the C-Click Fix tickets that we've been receiving in emails because all the avid users are looking for a safe place to continue to inline skate. Our DPW has been working very hard to patch it up as much as possible. The rink is so old that we can no longer get replacement parts. So what we've been doing is utilizing parts from the old rinks that were decommissioned to try to patch up this inline skating rink. But now we're kind of out of parts. And so this grant will help with the funding to renovate that inline skating rink. So if you are not familiar with Wilson Park, this is just a snapshot of the project area. And to the west, you would see the inline skating rink, which directly next to it is the basketball court. You also see a picture of the main parking lot into Harding Park. And on the north side is the new walking path, and just north of that are some of the other amenities such as the soccer field and the baseball diamond. So the purpose of this presentation is to present our project to the community and to council and just see if there's any input on the plan itself. So the scope for this project includes, like I mentioned, renovation and replacement of the rink. And we plan to make the rink ADA accessible and universally designed when possible. We also want to include new benches, trash recycling bins in that area because there aren't any now, and stormwater management, which will include landscaping to help with the flooding issues, mitigate the flooding in that area of the inline rink. The project estimate is $80,000 to $200,000. I know that's a broad range. We will have a more solidified number before the next council meeting, but the reason why it's such a broad range is because under the inline rink is an asphalt pad. And that pad hasn't been seen in a long time, so we're trying to assess the condition of the pad, and if the asphalt pad needs to be replaced, then it'll be more than the $80,000 that was quoted, closer to the $200,000. And again, we'll have that number closer to the next council meeting. So funding for the MDNR grant, recreation grants, we're applying for all 3. So even though we're applying for 3 grants, we will only get one of the 3 grants. But by applying for all 3, it increases our chances to at least get one. So we're applying for the trust fund grant and a recreation passport grant in an amount of $105,000. Both of those have a minimum match of 25%, which would be $35,000. For the trust fund grant, you get more for all the grants. You get more points for if you match more money, up to like 50%. So we would get more points if we get 50% match, and all these grants are point based. So it's not necessarily how well you write the narrative, it's how many points you get on what their criteria is set for. So that's where you see that range for the trust fund grant can be anywhere from 35 to 100 if we decide to put in 25% up to 50% match. Land and water is the 1-to-1 match, so if we ask for 100, we have to match $100. This is a reimbursable grant. What we do plan on, not just, we want to lessen the impact on the city fund, so we can utilize in-kind funding to help with that match. So that could be DPW work, Parks and Rec work that goes into the project, as well as we're looking into crowdfunding and then possibly some general fund funding as well. So this is the project timeline. The grants are due by April 1st. We will have an opportunity between April 1st and September. The MDNR will review all the grants, proposals, and then they will provide us with feedback and give us the opportunity, like a week or two opportunity to get more points. And then once we get that in, December is when they will announce the awardees. The grant agreements, we should anticipate that by July of next year, with construction could start potentially as early as next fall. So our next steps, first we plan on coming before council, the next council meeting on March 25th to ask for approval to, one, submit the grant, as well as a resolution of support for our grant project. And then following that, we will submit our grant proposal to MDNR.
Any questions from council?
Yes, through the chair. So you mentioned the asphalt pad underneath the rink. I believe that is one large pad that also contains the basketball courts. Are you looking to replace the entire pad or just the pad under the ice rink or the hockey rink?
Well, because of the budget restraints, we're mainly looking at under the hockey rink. However, we are going to get a quote just to see how much it is for the whole thing. But for this project itself, we're going to keep it to the hockey rink with hopefully maybe we get some more funding later and we can add that on as an alternate.
Yeah, because that pad is looking really bad as well. So
Yeah.
it's probably cheaper if we did it all as one project than to try to have someone come back 2 years later and do it, so. But I appreciate you getting a quote for both, so thank you.
Excuse me, I probably should have mentioned that because it is a public hearing, probably public comment should go
Oh,
first.
I'm so sorry.
Me as well. So I'll open it up to the public for comment regarding what we're hearing right now. All right, thank you. And now, back to council.
I would just like to, thank Lorena and her staff for, seeking 3 major state grants simultaneously. I think it's really important that we elevate that work to the community, that we let the folks here in chambers know, and that we let the folks who are watching online know and who may watch this later, that it is an extraordinary amount of work to apply for one of these grants. The fact that you and your team are applying for 3 simultaneously to maximize our chances, that's above and beyond. And I think it's more proof of what Ferndale does so well. So thank you for this. I'm extremely excited. I look forward to approving your grant applications, and I look forward to us getting some of that money.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Through the chair, I have a quick question. Refresh my memory because I can't remember far back into the discussion about the rinks when I was on the Parks and Rec Commission. But what sort of utilization do we see there? And do we believe that utilization was low due to the condition of the rink?
There's a lot of utilization at the Harding Park rink. We have people that come in groups to play, pickup games and all that. Like I said, we get a lot of calls and emails about, hey, this is happening with the rink. Are you going to fix it? I'll go fix it. They put billboards up to kind of patch up holes so the pucks don't go through the holes into the park. But there's a lot of utilization of the park currently, even in its current condition. So I do see it increasing once we make these necessary renovations.
Great. And follow-up question to that, is that the rink that we put the light above so that people can see a little bit better?
I'm not sure if Harding, I think that's maybe Geary Rink. I'm not sure if Harding has a light there. Yeah, I can get that answer for you for sure. I just can't think right now, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Through the chair, I don't have a question, but I'd like to share something with Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski. When I first came on council in 2014, I was on the Parks and Recreation Commission, and a group of skaters reached out to me about, fixing that rink back then. And what we did, and there was probably a good half dozen, 8 people that came to Garbett Park, and DPW was getting ready to decommission that one, and they came and helped take that one down so that there would be pieces for that rink to repair it. And to this day, there's a dedicated group that probably there 2-3 nights a week. They have their own Facebook page that they, communicate with people saying, hey, I'm going to skate, anybody want to join me, kind of thing. So it's very active rink. I don't know how active the Geary Park rink is.
Not as active as Harding. We do get people that utilize it for various things, but not as active as Harding.
Yeah.
Well, I'm absolutely looking forward to it not being a kind of Frankenstein's monster patched together.
And I believe that this item was the hearing. We're not making any decisions on this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings me to the consent agenda items. Item 7A, approval of the February 26, 2024 meeting minutes. Item 7B, authorization for Parks and Recreation Director to sign contracts relating to upcoming senior trips with payment amounts under $2,000 for a 6-month period. Item 7C, approval of payment to Miss Dig Systems, Inc. for the 2024 membership fee and the amount of $3,287.43 charged to the Water Sewer Fund membership dues to the account number listed. 7D, approval of the critical pump repairs at Albany Road Booster Station and Hilton Road Pump Station by Kennedy Industries for a not-to-exceed cost of $33,000. Item 7E, approval of lead cleanup and bullet trap maintenance in the police station pistol range by Best Technology Systems in the amounts of $9,975. Item 7F, approval to issue a purchase order to Dornbos for street sign material in the amount of $28,000. Item 7G, approval of asbestos tile removal at Fire Station Number 1 by Global Green Service Group LLC in the amount of $9,800. 7H, approval of a revised deficit elimination plan resolution for the auto parking fund. 7I, approval to backfill a water supervisor position. 7J, approval to backfill the DPW deputy director position. 7K, approval to enter a pre-suit settlement in the amount of $13,750 in the matter of Mosquena versus Ferndale. 7L, approval for the Ferndale Police Department to auction and dispose of lost and abandoned property via property room in accordance with local ordinances number 114, 2, 7 through 10, and, 7, 10, 29, and state law MCL 434.183. Item 7M, approval to backfill the finance manager position. Item 7N, approval of the purchase of 12 new election laptops in the amount of $9,631.44. 7O, approval of the listed appointments and reappointments to city boards and commissions. 7P, approval of bills and payrolls as submitted by the finance director and subject to review by the Council Finance Committee. Who will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Johnson?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Leaks May?
Yes. And it is now at this time that I would like for individuals who have been appointed to boards and commissions, if you'd like to come up and introduce yourselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Grant Zavach. I am a 2-year Ferndale resident. I've been working here for about 5 years now, and I was selected to join the Downtown Development Authority. Really excited to be a part of the community and now be able to contribute and work for the DDA. I've been working down here for a couple of years, just being part of the community, making friends, meeting people, and it's really cool to see all the passion that gets put into the community by the community members. And even with the financial committee, I didn't know we had something like that, so it was really cool to see and listen to everybody talk and show their passion for the community, and really excited to be a part of everything and contribute.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. I usually, when I turn around and see an audience that's left like this, is something I've said, but I realize I haven't said anything yet. So, my name is Doug Smith, and I'm with Coeur. I'm the operating partner at Coeur. And it was a number of years ago that we thought about, my son is a chef, was in San Francisco. We thought about opening up a restaurant, and it was either going to be Michigan or San Francisco. And once we got San Francisco out of the way, it became a question of where in southeastern Michigan. And with the foodie scene that has exploded in the Detroit area in particular, is really one of the things that we wanted. But more importantly, what we wanted was a vibrant downtown urban community and a community that would support what we're going to try to do. And so we were able to secure a business here in Ferndale that had been around for a long time with a long track record. And it was going to, we thought we were going to be tough to sort of raise the bar, but I think we've been able to do that in a number of ways. I say that personally and emotionally and factually. The Detroit Free Press just honored us last weekend with being the, after 8 months in business, of being the best new restaurant opening up in 2024, in 2023 and 24. So it was, and that beat writer is a very particular writer of culinary stuff, and so she was just being able to be nominated was going to be special for us in that respect. But we've been able to move forward in that respect, and we've gotten a lot of support from members of the infrastructure of Ferndale in helping us set up. And what's exciting now is that we are capturing that urban diner that was coming from suburbia to go downtown, and we're saying you don't have to go downtown. You can come to Ferndale and stay here and have a nice dining experience. And so when I saw this starting to come together, and with Summer and Jenny, probably over 6 or 8 months ago, I expressed an interest in wanting to contribute in some form. Try to bring back and give back what we've been getting in return from the city. And so that was why I indicated an interest in wanting to participate and bring some value to the business community that is a vibrant element of what drives certainly the downtown area of Ferndale. So I appreciate the opportunity to be a vocal pin, you know what, but also be a contributor as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Welcome. That moves us to the regular agenda, and we're moving to item 8A, City Council State Revenue Sharing Resolution. We will start with the city manager.
My remarks will actually be quite brief for once on revenue sharing, but I do want to say I'm really pleased to see City Council advocate so strongly and rightly for some intervention and change at the state level. We talk about it every year at this time of the budget process, the state's erosion of the revenue sharing, which is completely voluntary. Sorry, the camera's tripping me out. Got a little vertigo. Every year at the budget process, we kind of walk through where the state was in 2004 in terms of their standards and how much they've deviated from that standard by contributing less and less. And so I just want to first say thank you to Councilmember Laura and Councilmember Donnie for leading this resolution. It's really important. And I'll allow you to introduce the resolution.
Absolutely. Before and through the chair, would it be appropriate if I read through the resolution?
Yes.
Before I read through that, I want to share some thoughts. We spoke a lot about finance already tonight. I think we all feel very passionately about making sure that our city services are funded, our critical infrastructure is funded. And from back before I was elected, I saw this and saw that this was an issue, and then really went deeper into it after I was elected. And it's just been sticking in my craw that it was so absurd and so unfair to cities that we've been disinvested in for so long. And in the case of Ferndale, by 2026, $27 million. Our neighboring city in Royal Oak, 20-year disinvestment of about $48 million. And having those conversations in cities around the area has just been absolutely eye-opening, because it explains why we have been trying to make up the difference on the backs of our taxpayers, why we haven't invested in our critical infrastructure or maintenance. And it is so critical to do this now. Now, when we have the opportunity, when we have a very receptive legislature, to raise the red flag and say this is incredibly important and this is something that's needed. It's been needed for a long time, and to put the pressure on them and see what they can do at a legislative level. So, with that said, if you're okay with it, I'll read through the resolution.
I will first ask, does Councilmember Johnson, did you have any comments regarding this before Mayor Pro Tem reads the resolution?
I just want to make sure that I stress what my colleague said about, balancing our books on the backs of our local taxpayers. When the state disinvests in municipalities, which is what it is doing with this broken state revenue sharing model, we have no choice but to balance our budget on the backs of our local taxpayers through property taxes. The state takes away our choices when it does this to us. It restricts our options. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not equitable, which is a value we value here highly. And it has to change. We cannot, municipalities across Michigan, not just Ferndale, cannot operate in this model sustainably forever. We must demand that the legislature take action and fix this.
Not known for being brief when I write things, so it's going to be a minute.
All right.
Okay. This is a resolution urging state leaders to address the inadequacy of state statutory revenue sharing and encouraging other Michigan cities to join in this effort. The news today, CBS News, called it a reform, and I really like that because we do need reform. So, the city of Ferndale, along with other local governments in Michigan, relies on annual state revenue sharing payments to provide essential services to its residents. And state revenue sharing in Michigan is divided into two types, constitutional and statutory, with the latter being subject to legislative appropriations during the state's budget process. Since 2002, the city of Ferndale has experienced a significant reduction in statutory revenue sharing, impacting the city's ability to fund essential services adequately, a challenge shared by many cities across Michigan. Projections calculated and provided by the Michigan Municipal League's Save MI City State Revenue Sharing Database demonstrate a concerning trend for the city of Ferndale, with a yearly unfunded amount reaching approximately $2 million some odd dollars by the year 2026, with a cumulative unfunded amount of $27 million since 2004. State revenue sharing is the second largest revenue source for the city of Ferndale behind property taxes. In fiscal year 2024, state revenue sharing accounted for 15% of the city of Ferndale's general fund budget. This reduction in statutory revenue sharing places an undue financial strain on the city of Ferndale and other Michigan cities necessitating either cuts in essential services or increased local taxation, both of which adversely affect residents. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Ferndale, Michigan hereby urges the Governor of Michigan, the Michigan State Legislature, and other state leaders to, number one, acknowledge the critical importance of statutory revenue sharing for the financial stability of local governments and the well-being of their residents. Two, support statutory protection and expansion of statutory revenue sharing for cities, villages, townships to ensure more stable and adequate funding sources for all local governments. Three, recognize the long-term implications of reduced statutory revenue sharing on the quality of life of Michigan communities. Four, engage in open and collaborative discussions with local government representatives, including a coalition of Michigan cities, to develop a more equitable and sustainable revenue sharing model. And then all of our normal boilerplate language about adopting this, if we so choose.
I open it up to council. Any questions? Comments?
I don't have any questions, just want to thank you for your hard work writing this and working with the other cities and getting, more municipalities involved in getting this letter out there. I think I reached out to my friend, Senator Jeremy Moss today, who is co-sponsoring two of the bills, Senate Bill 182 and 183, and it's just sitting in committee. So hopefully this will help elevate our voices and get that out of committee and onto the floor. So thank you both for your work on that.
Equally, I'm appreciative to Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski and Councilmember Donnie Johnson. That is a lot of revenue lost.
Agreed, through the chair. Yes, thank you very much for your hard work and putting all of this together. I believe that you were interviewed this afternoon, this evening. Do we know when that would air and where it will air for our residents?
So shockingly, it was live and took me by surprise. So it has already aired. It may air again, and the link will more than likely be on the internet. And when I do receive that, I will make sure that I share it. And it was so funny, that dollar amount, that $27 million, I love that they asked me about it. And they said, what could you have done with that money? That is a whole lot of lead service line replacements, trash cans, parks improvements. So many things could have been done with that money. That is critical maintenance that we could have done on multiple different buildings, including our community center that we had to divest from. And it is just, it's long overdue. I am going to rattle some chains as much as I humanly can.
That could have been $2 million, could have been an annual bond payment, on new facilities.
Absolutely.
Well, I thank you both so much. And now it looks like we need a motion.
Where is it?
That's my place too.
I move to approve the city council resolution on statutory revenue sharing.
I will second that.
Polika,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Mikulski,
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. Regular agenda item number 8B, consideration of the bid award for cured-in-place pipe sewer rehabilitation through SAC Construction LLC. And I believe the James Jamerson will be presenting on this.
Thank you, Mayor. So the cured-in-place pipe sewer rehab program, kind of a long one. The acronym doesn't make as much sense as the full thing. I still tried later on. To add some context, so the CIPP sewer rehab program is a cured-in-place pipe sewer rehab program. It's a series of planned sewer repairs. This includes annual lining and repair work in our sewer mains.
And 2024 is mostly 2023 work. I'll explain a little about that later. We expect or project about $550,000 in spending for the next 3 years of the program. This program relies on and is related to the CCTV program, which is next on the agenda. The unlined sewers that are being addressed are mostly 80 to 100 years old at this point. The useful life of clay sewer pipe is roughly 50 years. So we're on borrowed time with the rest of these. And just real quick, I wanted to explain, so some people don't understand what CIPP is. Simply put, sewers that are in place already are lined. It's almost like a sock. They fill it up with air and heat that hardens and it becomes a plastic pipe on the inside of a clay pipe. It's much cheaper than excavating because you can go through manhole segments. The CIPP Sewer Rehabilitation Program history. So we have done work, should have done work for the last 4 years. In 2020, we spent about $400K doing 11,000 linear feet. 2021, all of these were the same contractor. We did a little bit more expensive, similar foot, 396 with a little bit less. And then 2023, Instituform was had an extension, but part of that extension, they were allowed to negotiate for better pricing based on materials, and they were locked in at some pricing that wasn't very good because material went up a lot since 2020, so we could not come to an agreement, and that was pushed off to a later date. The extension pricing was unagreed upon, so all the work that didn't get done is added to this contract. 2024 program looks to repair about 8.5 linear feet, 8.5 thousand linear feet of the 422,000 linear foot total, which is approximately 2%. The sewer rehab program is a 3-step process that includes prep. Before you can line the sewers, you have to clean them lightly. They go through, they line them, they CCTV them prior to lining, and then they CCT afterwards to approve the repairs. 2023 approved work, again, is part of this program. We've also, over the past few years, noted some additional trouble areas that get added to this program. It should be noted that there's some areas around Shevlin and Edgeworth that we've had multiple resident complaints. We've added those to this program to address those sooner than we had planned. These repairs were planned using the 2019 data generated from that CCTV program. SAK Construction is the low bid. They were vetted and recommended by Giffords. So cost and bidding, we received 4 bids in total. The project was budgeted about $550K. Low bid's $452, and the high bid was $755, which is incredibly high. They were probably just busy and trying to see what would happen. The CIPP sewer rehab timeline looks like this, and there's the acronym is the CIPP SRP. Not great. April 15th, pre-construction meeting. We'll kick everything off. Construction should begin the end of April. By June 30th, we should have construction mostly complete. And then by July 30-ish, 30-ish, we should have the punch list roughly finished and closeout should be occurring. It's hard to see the detail, but I wanted to include this because this is a construction map for all of our construction projects, which is something that we had Giffords and Webster put together because we have so many different streets being worked on. We thought this would be helpful for everyone to see. And that is the final slide for CIPP. I will put that construction map up and take any questions.
Open up questions to council.
I have a question. So for the lining, what is the useful life of this lining? So 50 years for a pipe, and now we're lining them. What kind of time are we buying ourselves?
50 years.
Sweet.
And that there will be further detail when we get to the CCTV section on that.
Cool.
Well, considering since one depends on the other, shall we just have Mr. Jameson just kind of continue with the presentation regarding the CTV?
That'll work.
And we'll,
May still make two separate motions.
Well,
We'd have to vote on them separately.
yeah, but
we have to vote on them
but
separately.
you certainly can hear that presentation
Okay.
if it
Well,
helps
you might as
color
well
and inform
continue.
you.
Okay.
Right.
I added a slide, so just bear with me for 1 minute. I promise it'll be worth it. Okay. So sewer televising, cleaning and assessment program, the better acronym for that is CCTV. I just wanted to include a map of some of the sewers. This is just a section around Albany, Leroy, and Pearson that kind of shows what we have underground, what we've done in the past 5 years, how that was scheduled out based on the 2019 assessment. So the televising and cleaning program, you'll see there's a picture of something that is actually going to be taken out this year for the lining program. That is a snake from a residential tap that just kind of ended up in the sewer main and was left there. So there's some point repairs that always take place. You find some amazing things in there. This isn't that unexpected. But the CCTV and cleaning program includes cleaning, televising, and condition assessments of sewer main. This program is scheduled every 4 to 5 years. It was last done in 2018. We expect to do it again in 2028. Cleaning needs to occur prior to televising. So they use a teleclean process. It's a more efficient process. I'll explain that in a little bit more detail later. The condition assessment data helps us prioritize this CIPP program. And this also, you may ask why we do it every 4 to 5 years and why we repeat in some sections prior to, or instead of doing it once every 50 years for each group. But it's because some of these can't all be addressed, and this helps us track decline over time in our sewers. So again, televising cleaning program history, 2018, we used United Resources for about $341,000 to do roughly 111,000 linear feet. And in 2008, these are both unknown because I was still waiting on details from Giffords. It's kind of a long time ago. 188,000 is what we don't know what we spent. We did roughly 188,000 linear feet. So in 2008 and 2018, the last two CCTV programs, we reviewed roughly 70% of our city's sewers. And prior to that, the last assessment was done in 1990, roughly 1995. So again, we have about 422,000 linear feet of sewer in the city that we're responsible for. Program cleans and televises 60,000 linear feet this year for 2024. That's approximately 15. If you add that to 70, you come up with about 85. Roughly 10 to 15% of our sewers are lined, so that kind of makes up the last chunk of that pie. The reason we do a little bit less, we did some major ones in 2008 and 2018. We're doing less now because we're doing lining more regularly, and we don't, again, need to televise those for 50 years. Line sections are good for 50 years, so that's why we have the smaller annual program. This program includes a light cleaning prior to doing anything, and then they jet, and as the jet runs through, they CCTV at the same time. They do this just because it's more efficient. And then, if necessary, they'll do heavy cleaning. I included a picture of something from the 19 assessment. Again, this is a sewer main with grease. I don't know that it's marked where, but that is grease on the side of it, and that's not good. It restricts the flow through the sewer main. So, yeah, that will all be cleaned up. And I actually think this segment is slated for lining as well. So again, this CCTV program will guide the next 4 years of planned sewer repairs. Taplin Group was the low bid. They were vetted and recommended by Giffords. I included a chart. Some of this information is a little outdated. It's from 2019, but this kind of goes into an explanation of what the condition assessment looks like when it looks at our sewer. There's basically 5 grades. Grade 1 is best, but still not great. Grade 5 is the worst. In 2019, our totals looked like about 50% was 1 to 2. Those do not typically get lined. Sometimes grade 3 will get lined, but grade 4 and grade 5 almost always get lined if possible. You can see that makes up roughly 50% of what was televised in 2019. And I believe we expect about the same from what we inspect this time. I included this just because I like it so much. So we're not actually putting bats in the sewer, but what we are doing is using sonar inspection for the first time in our program. One of the things that is always difficult with the larger 60-inch and 90-inch sewers, those are very important. Because they're so big, it's harder to get a camera in there and get an accurate view 360 degrees of those segments. So new technology that's came out is called multi-sensor inspection, and that basically bounces radar on the surfaces inside the pipe to get a better understanding of what's going on. And those are included in this program, about 9,000 linear feet. So the cost and bidding, we received 5 bids, project budgeted around $362,000. Low bid, again, $265,682. So we came in lower than the projected budget, which is great. High bid is, again, high. 2024 televising cleaning timeline is roughly the same, a little slightly different. It's going to take a little longer. April 15th, again, pre-construction meeting on or around then. April 30th, we should begin construction. Around July 10th, we should be mostly complete. And then August 10th, we should be working on punch list items and closing out the contract. I included a construction map again, and that is the slide I will stop on and answer any questions.
Through the chair, I've got, of course, some questions. But first I want to go back to the cured in place pipe sewer rehab item for consideration. So in the past, we used in situ form?
Yep, roughly.
What happened to them? Where did they go? They weren't part of the 3.
They bid on the last one. I could pull that up. I think they bid high on the CIPP and did not bid on the televising.
Okay. Is there?
We're not broken out as a part of the 3, if you're referring to the recommendation, but if you go to the bottom left corner, they're included as, like, they don't break out every price because they were the highest bid.
Oh, okay. Is there any material difference between the material that they would use, like whatever epoxy resin that was, versus what we would be using with the new company?
No, the program, the engineer specifics call for the same material to be used. And that's just part of unit pricing.
Okay. And then I had one other question, and it was about the project manual that you included within that item. So the project manual, cured in place pipe program.gw.pdf.
Yep.
On page 77, there is an item that is crossed out within here that says the contractor shall purchase a builder's risk installation floater in a form acceptable to the owner, covering the property of the project for full cost of replacement as of the time of any loss, yada, yada, yada. That is all crossed out. Can you help me understand what that is and why it's crossed out?
What page is that? And
That is page 77 and 78.
no, but I will note that and follow up with Giffords.
Would that have been a recommendation from Giffords?
Through the chair, that's a type of insurance coverage that's often not recommended for inclusion with respect to the city contractors on these types of projects. It's the type of, it's a subset of some of the insurance coverages.
And why would we not want that?
The cost of it versus the risk.
Gotcha.
Oh, I see what, okay. Oh, builder's risk installation floater. Okay, yeah.
Through the chair, do you know if we had that in the past with the other
It's typically not
contracts?
included.
Typically not included with Ferndale?
I don't know if specifically, I don't recall last year, but I'm pretty confident that it would not have been included.
Okay.
And I can check into that if you'd like.
And I can follow up as well with Giffords.
We have two items then to entertain a motion for. But my question to you, Councilmember Mikulski, is with that, not having the answers to that, are you still comfortable with voting on this tonight?
I'm vaguely uncomfortable, but not vague enough that I feel like we wouldn't move forward with something like this. I would like an answer as to whether we've had that in the past. And is there a way that we could vote on it tonight with the stipulation that if this was something that we should have in place, and we had it in place in the past, that we would not move forward with awarding the contract?
Through the chair, you could put that contingency on the motion.
Just have to figure out how to word it, right?
Well, it could be along the lines of adding to the motion, subject to a review with respect to the builder's risk insurance, and to whether or not that was included in prior CIPP projects, and to require it if it was included. Could be a motion.
I would be very comfortable with that. That would reduce the vague uncomfortableness.
I mean, just for the record, I am not familiar with opting for this sort of coverage for this sort of project. I think, I'm racking my brain a little bit here. I think it's more frequently when you're like constructing like a building. It's the risk and liability of the site itself and the structure that's
Builder's
being
risk is
constructed.
often the theft of some of the, and it wouldn't be
Theft,
theft
it's
inside.
damage at the site, it's if the building that's half constructed suddenly catches fire in the middle of the night, it's those sorts of liabilities and risks on a structure being built, in my experience. But I don't know, it may be more common, but I've never known it to apply to this sort of project because it's already infrastructure in place. But I think the stipulation on the motion is a really good idea.
All right, with that being said.
Through the chair, I got questions.
Okay, all right, very well.
So I apologize. I normally try to prepare you for some questions. But this one just came up in your review. During the last 10 years that I've been on council, we've approved a lot of these projects. So we've been doing this cured in place lining for quite some time. Do you know how much is left within the city? Because it feels like we're getting to a point where there can't be a lot of uncured pipeline.
I think there's quite a bit.
Yeah.
I can get that number.
It's just a curiosity, Yeah. Because like I said, I feel like every couple of years we're doing a 3-year project. The next item is, so you said that the process is that they basically put this material down in the pipe and then expand it to fill the inside of the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
Since a lot of these pipes are fed by residential and businesses, their pipes coming from their buildings into this central pipe. How do we know that the process isn't blocking some of those entrances? Because residents call us up and they say, well, the pipe must be backed up because my basement is flooding, and I don't have trees, so it must be something that the city's done with their pipes. How do we know that those exit pipes are, feeding into the main pipe aren't being blocked by this process?
Yep. So part of the process, what we do is we put up tags at all of the doors that are going to be there if their sewer line is being lined. It happened to me 3 years ago, but we go through and we tell everyone, don't use a lot of water for a little while. It will be blocked. So they'll line it and then they'll come through and they'll actually cut all the sewer taps. So that way all of the residents' homes are, again, open to the sewer main. And then the last step of that process is going through with CCTV to identify that all of those residential taps or commercial have been reopened.
Okay. And that leads to my next question. With the CCTV coverage or filming that we do, many years ago, we bought equipment ourselves to do this type of work. When residents would complain about, hey, my sewers are backing up, something's going on. So rather than rent the equipment, we actually bought it. And when those instances happen, we put the cameras down to check to see, are there roots coming out? Are we still notifying residents when that happens?
Are we still, I apologize.
Well, so like in this instance, the company's going to be running this camera through and identifying that the work has been completed. At that same time, are we asking them to see if roots are coming out from the residential pipes to notify the resident that, hey, you're going to have root problems, you're going to start having backup? Because we've done that in the past with our equipment.
Right. And as CCTV goes through sewer mains, it will note areas where roots are protruding from residential leads. I don't know that we necessarily knock on every door and tell every resident that they have an issue with their sewer lead.
We used to.
Yeah.
As a courtesy. That way, if they want to hire a company to come in and root out their pipes or whatever they want to do with their pipes.
Yeah. I don't see why
they
we
have an
couldn't.
opportunity, rather than, 6 months, call us and say, hey, it's your fault that I have these backups because I have these backups in my pipes. And on that note, because we do own equipment like that, is there a reason why we're not doing this work and we're actually hiring it out? I mean, I know the answer, but I want
Yeah,
this
so
on the
we do use our equipment. Our equipment is roughly 10 to 12 years old, which doesn't seem old, but is old for technology. We're actually, I think, scheduled to replace that equipment in the next year, I believe, is part of our capital program. We do use that, but we typically don't have time to do a scheduled program like this. It's going to take 2 crews working simultaneously to get it done in a little over a month. That would just, we have other responsibilities that our water department does to keep things moving. We do use it for emergencies. We did actually use it over this winter because it was a little bit warmer, so we were able to do some jetting ourselves and check some of these areas because we know that we put them off in 2023 and wanted to make sure that they were flowing prior to this CIPP being approved. So we do use it, and we use it regularly. But yes, we just don't have the staff to address a project like this over a month period.
understand. Yeah, it's a big project, so I understand that. I just want to make sure that the public is aware. And then the final thing, if there's enough weird things that you find in the sewers, maybe DPW wants to make a calendar of, all the weird things that, you got 12
Yeah,
months.
we could probably find 10 or 12, I'm sure.
That's all I have, Mayor.
All right.
Thank you.
I would like to note for the public record that when folks think we're up to nefarious items, we're really just agonizing over sewer pipes and municipal tax policy.
Who would like to entertain a motion for item 8B with amendment or the added stipulation?
I move we approve the bid award for the cured-in-place pipe sewer rehabilitation to SAK Construction LLC with the stipulation stated previously by Councilmember Mikulski and noted by the city attorney.
Second.
All right. Okay.
I didn't really know how to articulate.
Johnson?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Leaks May?
Yes. And now item 8C, consideration of the bid award for the sewer cleaning and televising to the Taplin Group, LLC.
I move we approve the bid award for sewer cleaning and televising to Taplin Group LLC.
Support.
Right.
Johnson?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Leaks May?
Yes. And with that, that brings us to call to council, and City Manager, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll actually begin and hijack the beginning tonight. I want to first thank everyone, City Council and staff included, for attending the City Council Strategic Planning Session that was held on Saturday. It is the first of 2 Saturdays. I'm going to request your presence, so I do appreciate that. The strategic plan will be presented to council for adoption probably in April. If still here, let me know so you can expect a copy of that draft coming back to you for review soon. Next, as to the Finance Committee, I just do want to take another moment to acknowledge the extraordinary civic work that's been done over the last 2 years between the Facilities Task Force and the Finance Committee. It's an incredible amount of work, and I tried to quantify it in the packet. I don't know if anyone noticed that, but if you look at the volunteer hours, it's quite exceptional of the contribution back to the committee. In light of that, I'm also going to be I've drafted already an article from my office about the newsletter that will go out in the spring edition, but in that there's going to be a link to a form that will allow residents to request staff drop-offs. We will not be mailing it to save costs, but while we do have staff out in the field, we'll be hoping to drop off a packet at your porch if you request it. So look for that information. And then finally, we have the budget workshop scheduled this Saturday, the second Saturday, and the last Saturday I'll be asking from you for a long time. That is going to be from 9 to 4:30 in City Council chambers. It is a public meeting and will be recorded and broadcast as well. So I do thank everybody for their attention and diligence for those meetings. Next, I want to invite Emmanuel to come give an update from the Parks and Recreation Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a lot of updates to get through the Parks and Recreation Department, so bear with me for a moment. We want to announce that we are going to be holding our extravaganza event this year. It'll be held at 3 separate parks on March 23rd, and beginning at Wilson Park at 1 o'clock for ages 1 through 4 only, and then Gary Park at 1:30 and Martin Road Park at 2 o'clock. Both of those parks will be open to ages 1 through 11, and all of the parks will have various Easter eggs that are spread out with candy-filled Easter eggs. A few of the eggs out at each park will have a ticket inside of them, and those that receive the ticket or find the ticket will be able to exchange it for an Easter basket. And you'll also be able to take pictures with the Easter Bunny at Martin Road Park only. We also want to thank the Ferndale Elks Lodge for their participation in helping to organize this event. They're basically taking over the whole of Geary Park to operate that part of it for us. If, cross your fingers, there happens to be rain on that day, the entire event will be moved to the next day at Geary Park only. We'll set up over there because that's the park that has the driest and the best infiltration of our available park stop. All right, summer camp. Summer camp will open for registration on April 1st at 9 a.m. It is important that you understand the 9 a.m. portion of it because when we opened up registration last year, Registration filled up within 48 hours. So if you are interested in signing up for summer camp, please make sure that you visit our website and visit our registration site to get more information about the program and to be able to register. This year's program will be 10 weeks, running from June to August, and will be $175 per session. We have weekly sessions with different themes and different field trips and all of that good stuff. If you need any more information about it, please feel free to contact me. My email is ejohnson@ferndalemI.gov. I also want to announce that our girls basketball league, our all-girls basketball league, that this is the first year that we are operating it, has closed out its season this past Saturday. We had 3 teams that were in the league, and we are looking to grow that for future seasons. It was a great opportunity to get the girls out there and participating without the super competitive nature that comes with the co-ed leagues. We adopted this league after being requested by the community to implement it. And the Ferndale team ended up winning the championship, so we want to congratulate them. We also want to announce that we are holding water aerobics classes that are beginning on March 30th and running through April 27th. They are 1-hour classes that take place every Saturday during that time. They're open to all members, and they take place at Ferndale High School at their pool. It's a low-impact workout in the heated pool, and it's guided by instructors, and there are lifeguards on hand as well. Park and pavilion rentals are opening up at Gary Park, Wanda Park, Martin Road Park, and Harding Park. They're available throughout the year, but we are getting calls about the rentals, and the available spots are starting to fill up. So if any members of the community are interested in renting out a pavilion, renting out an open field space, renting out a ball field, any of that, please contact us. You're going to want to contact us at 248-544-6767, extension 519. And the park rental information is also available on the parks page on our website. Senior storytelling sessions. All right, I'm almost done. Senior storytelling sessions are taking place every Thursday in March at 1:30 at Incubizo. It is a completely free event. Attendees share stories about their lives. This particular series is aimed at seniors, but it's open to all, and it's designed to build a community and afford a safe space for them to practice mental health. More information is available on our registration page on that as well. And then finally, just a quick update about the dog park class sessions. We are transitioning away from the monthly virtual sessions that we've had to implement since COVID happened, and we're moving toward an on-demand service. Now, this will mean that that people interested in attending the dog park will still need to sign up on a monthly basis. It's just that you'll have a set amount of time in order to complete the on-demand course before you're taken out of the system. We'll have more information about that available on the website and on our social media as the time approaches. We're planning on rolling this out on April 1st. And yeah, we'll have more information as that date approaches. That's all I have.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I would also add, we are working to enhance or augment the power at the dog park to make the system more reliable and to augment the solar power that's been there. So we're making progress on that. Next, Denicia.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just want to remind everyone that Fern and Learn will be beginning April 4th. So our sign up closes, we wanted to extend it, so we're closing it tomorrow at noon. It's supposed to close today, but we wanted to give you guys some more time to sign up if you'd like. The program starts April 4th. And goes until May 23rd, and that's every Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30. And we do encourage drop-ins, so we will be sharing the schedule if you'd like to just drop into a class or two, so you don't have to commit to the entire course if you don't want to. So, ooh. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you so much. James, you want to come back up and share some updates from Public Works?
Spring is here. April 1st, we'll be taking lawn clippings in bags at the curb again, and I wanted to provide a few Woodward construction updates. We had our kickoff meeting last week with MDOT and Fishbeck. They expect that by April 15th, and I will mention that these dates are tentative, they're dependent on weather. April 15th, we expect that cement work will begin. We expect that by May, striping and signage should be being worked on. In May as well, DPW will begin installing the bike rack corrals. Those can't take place until striping is finished, so we're kind of waiting on PK striping to complete their work there. By June, we expect construction will end, and then by July, the punch list should be completed. Additionally, we expect that some lane closures will be targeting work around major intersections, specifically the cement work and some of the striping for the bike lane, as it has a time that it needs to cure. More info on that with specific dates as we get closer.
Thanks, James. I'll share an update on behalf of Chief Robinson. You might have heard the sirens. She had to cut out early, but she was thrilled to announce that the county is going to be helping our fire department reintroduce the CERT program, which is the Community Emergency Response Team. It's been suspended for a little bit, but she's very excited about getting that going. She's looking at offering classes Mondays and Wednesdays from 6 to 10, April 22nd through May 15th. And Saturday, May 4th from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. at the Ferndale Fire Headquarters. You can look for us to be sharing out registration and contact information for interest short. Let me bounce back into staff updates. And Mayor, I do believe that is it, unless our DDA director wanted to make an announcement. Thank you, Jenny.
It's me in closing. I'll try and make this brief, but I can't promise. So first of all, thank you, Council and Mayor, for confirming our 2 new board members. We're really excited with the DDA to execute some great strategy ahead, representing residents, visitors, businesses, and staff. Everyone belongs in downtown Ferndale. We want to make that a meaningful and positive experience. We're also really excited that the outdoor cafe sidewalk seating opens up on March 15th. This is just in time for St. Patrick's Day. So we'd like to remind any visitors who are coming to enjoy springtime in Ferndale to do so responsibly, and especially be mindful of the bike lanes, traffic lanes, anything that might be going on with our construction projects. For any businesses that are still seeking to activate their sidewalk seating, bars and restaurants, they have to apply through the city for a permit first, and as well as MDOT if they are located on Woodward Avenue. But we're again really excited to reactivate our outdoor spaces this spring and summer. If anyone needs information, they can always email info@downtownferndale.com. We had some great community feedback on signage for the parking initiatives that we're working on. So thanks very much to Park Ferndale for that, and to DPW and supporting how we're going to make clear and easy signage for folks to get around downtown. Whether you're parking a bike or a car or you're walking, we want to again make sure it's an easy way for you to move around in downtown Ferndale. An important announcement to be looking out for this week. There is a Match on Main program that is executed through MEDC. Match on Main is a reimbursement grant opportunity that supports new and expanding place-based businesses and can provide up to $25,000 in funding. MEDC recognizes that small businesses are a cornerstone of what makes Michigan's downtowns unique. And the program aims to provide access to capital for place-based businesses in order to create and retain jobs, leverage private investment, and activate vacant or underutilized space. There is a 10% match requirement for the recipient if selected. So if somebody is receiving the full $25,000, that would be a $2,500 match from the recipient. If it's only $18,000, it would only be $1,800 on their part. And the project must be completed within 12 months. And I will emphasize this is a reimbursement program, not an advancement. So it would be for eligible costs that are deemed through that application process. This grant is available to certified redevelopment ready communities and select Michigan Main Street communities. Ferndale is proud to be both of those distinctions. And in order to do this, there is a an application process. So Ferndale, as the city, in conjunction between DDA and CED, will be submitting one maximum of 2 proposals on behalf of interested businesses who seek this grant. To do that, we're going to be putting out an online interest application. So there'll be a seamless document and a web-based link that any interested business in Ferndale, if they meet the eligible criteria that we'll outline, they would submit their proposal at a high level. And then we, as City of Ferndale, will work to select among those and then make the proposal to MEDC. So the deadline for that final application on Ferndale's part is going to be April 17th. In order to meet that deadline, we're going to be trying to give businesses 2 weeks. So we want to give them notice now tonight, even before the application link is ready. So please be on the lookout for that. We'll be circulating it through our DDA newsletter recipients, also through CED, and ask you as council if anyone is interested, or if you think of anyone in mind, please let us know so we can make sure they receive that. But we wanted to give those businesses at least 2 weeks to be thinking about a proposal that they could do and accomplish within 1 year. All right, thanks very much.
Thank you, Jenny, and Mayor, back to you.
All right. We'll open it up to council, starting with Councilman Polika.
I just have one thing. Former Mayor Dan Martin will be here at the next council meeting, but I wanted to give a heads up to the 15th annual Fern Care Dinner will be on April 11th at the Club Venetian in Madison Heights. Tickets are $75 and can be purchased online at ferncare.org. It's a great event. It raises needed money for helping those who are uninsured and underinsured. That's all I have.
Councilmember Johnson?
I just have, oh, I just lost my words.
I do that all the time.
Oh, man. What was I going to say? I'm sorry. Please come back to me.
That's not how it works. I'm just kidding.
Oh, well.
Councilmember Kelly.
I just wanted to mention that the Ferndale seniors have their meeting on Wednesday in Hazel Park at 11, and they're super excited that they have a local playwright, Frank Anthony Polito. He's from Hazel Park and now lives with his partner in Pleasant Ridge, and all are welcome to join.
Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski?
I do have one item tonight, and it's a point of transparency. You know, we had sent out a letter to our elected officials on the Israel-Gaza conflict, and we sent it out both through email to, I believe it was, hang tight, it was Haley Stevens, Debbie Stabenow, and Gary Peters. I have not heard from all 3 of those through email. We also did send it out certified mail to each one of their offices. I did check earlier this week. They did all receive it. I have also not received anything back from them. I would ask the rest of council, if you do receive anything, please let me know so that we can make sure that we're letting the public know.
Thank you for that. I just want to, a couple things. Again, I want to thank the Financial Task Force for your work. I'll keep thanking you for your work, so. It was a great job, very concise, and I noticed that people have been taking the packets as they've been leaving, so that's very good. This is Michigan Municipal League Week. Capitol Conference is going on starting tomorrow. And I think some council members are going. I know I'm attending. I just wanted to share that I will be a panel during the Michigan Women and Municipal Government Luncheon, where we'll be talking about succession planning and how we're developing new leaders or encouraging new leaders who want to get involved in local government. So I'm excited to be asked to be on that panel, and hope it opens doors. And I plan to cheer on our Fern and Learn and our police advisory committees and anything that we're doing to encourage people to be on boards and commissions, so they'll be further interested in learning more and perhaps even delving in more into local government. So I'm excited about that. Let's see here, there's something else. This is March's Reading Month, so I'm sure many of you have been asked to do some reading. I'm happy that I'm pleased to be reading at Webb Elementary School at the end of this week, and then Ferndale Upper Elementary next week, and probably at the Early Childhood Center, because that's my baby. I love that childhood center. So I hope that you all will get a chance to do that too. It's a very rewarding experience. With that, I don't have anything else, and I call this meeting to order at 9:52. Adjourn. I'm tired. It's long night.